In 2003, a team of archaeologists working in the British Museum's archives found something that wasn't supposed to exist anymore. A clay tablet catalogued in 1876, then removed from public record in 1924. The inscription described a cyclical event, a reset that wipes civilizations clean every few thousand years. And according to the translation, the next one was dated. Within 6 months, every known copy of that tablet's translation had vanished from academic databases. The researchers who published about it, 2 retired, 1 died in a car accident. The last one now refuses to discuss what she found. So what did those tablets actually say? And why would someone spend a century making sure you never read them? If you're finding this video, subscribe now. This kind of content doesn't stay up forever. Hit that button so you know where to find the next one when this disappears. The Sumerians are the oldest known civilization with a written language. They appeared in Mesopotamia around 4500 BCE, in what's now southern Iraq. And they didn't just write shopping lists and tax records. They wrote about the gods, the creation of humanity, and the cycles of time that govern everything. One of their most important concepts was the idea of cyclical time. Not linear like we think of it, circular. Everything that happens has happened before and will happen again. The rise of cities, the fall of empires, the destruction and rebirth of the world itself. They called these cycles the Shah. 1 Shah equals 3,600 years, and according to Sumerian mythology, at the end of each great cycle, the world undergoes a catastrophic reset. Floods, earthquakes, fires from the sky, the kind of event that erases most of civilization and forces the survivors to start over. Now, here's where it gets interesting. In the 1800s, when archaeologists first started translating Sumerian tablets, they found detailed astronomical records, star charts, planetary movements, eclipse predictions. These people were tracking the cosmos with a level of precision that shouldn't have been possible without telescopes. And embedded in those astronomical records were countdown markers, dates calculated forward from specific celestial events. The tablets didn't just describe past resets, they predicted the next one. The British Museum's original translation, published in a limited academic journal in 1924, claimed the tablets pointed to a specific window, a 50-year period where certain planetary alignments would trigger the next reset event. And that window, it opened in 2024. Within months of publication, the journal was recalled. The museum claimed errors in translation. But the lead translator, Dr. Edward Whitmore, stood by his work. He published a follow-up paper arguing the Sumerians had witnessed previous resets and developed a mathematical system to predict them. Whitmore died in 1926. The official cause was pneumonia, but his personal notes suggest he was being followed in the weeks before his death. His last letter to a colleague mentioned men asking questions about the tablets and expressed fear for his safety. His entire body of work on the Sumerian calendar system vanished from academic circulation, gone from libraries, gone from university archives, and for nearly 80 years nobody talked about it publicly. Then came the internet. In the early 2000s, independent researchers started scanning old academic journals and uploading them to digital archives. That's when Whitmore's original paper resurfaced, and with it the full translation of the tablets describing the reset cycle. The paper detailed something called the Anunnaki calendar, a system supposedly given to the Sumerians by the gods themselves. It tracked the orbit of a massive celestial body, possibly a planet or brown dwarf star, that passes through our solar system every 3,600 years. According to the translation, the Sumerians didn't invent this calendar, they inherited it. The tablets claimed it came from an older civilization, one that existed before the last reset. A civilization advanced enough to calculate planetary orbits thousands of years into the future, advanced enough to survive the previous catastrophe and pass their knowledge forward. The tablets referred to this celestial body by several names: Nibiru, the Destroyer, the Red Star. Each name carried specific meanings in Sumerian cosmology, but they all described the same thing: an object so massive its approach alone would signal the end of an age. When this object enters the inner solar system, its gravitational pull destabilizes Earth's crust. Magnetic poles shift, tectonic plates buckle, ocean currents reverse. The last time it happened, according to the tablets, was around 1600 BCE, the same period when Bronze Age civilizations across the Mediterranean mysteriously collapsed. Think about that timing. The Hittite Empire fell. Mycenaean Greece collapsed. Egypt's new kingdom barely survived. Troy was destroyed. Entire writing systems disappeared. Cities were abandoned. Trade routes that had existed for centuries just stopped. Mainstream historians call it a systems collapse, a cascading failure of interconnected civilizations. But what if it wasn't gradual? What if something happened that was so catastrophic, so sudden, that it broke everything at once? Now mainstream archaeology explains the Bronze Age collapse through drought, invasion, and economic failure. But the Sumerian tablets describe something different. They describe the sky turning red, the ground shaking for days, and waves as tall as mountains swallowing coastal cities. Sound familiar? Because those same descriptions appear in flood myths from dozens of cultures. The biblical flood, the Greek story of Deucalion, the Hindu Pralaya, the Hopi emergence stories, all describing the same type of catastrophic reset, all dated to roughly the same period. The Sumerian tablets claim to be the original source, the template that all other flood stories copied, and they claim to know when it would happen again because they had mathematical records going back tens of thousands of years. In 2003, when those British Museum researchers found the suppressed tablet in the archives, they found something else too. A clay seal from the same excavation site that had never been catalogued. It showed a celestial map with a specific date encoded in astronomical positions. When translated using the Sumerian calendar system, the date pointed to Twinai Morj 46, not the start of the reset window, but the peak, the moment when the celestial body would be closest to Earth and the effects most severe. The researchers published their findings in a small academic journal. 6 months later, the journal's entire print run was purchased by an anonymous buyer and destroyed. The digital copies were removed from databases. The researchers received legal threats from a foundation they'd never heard of, claiming intellectual property violations. One researcher, Dr. Sarah Mitchell, tried to speak publicly about what she'd found. She gave an interview to a fringe archaeology podcast in 2004. In that interview, she mentioned that the tablets described specific warning signs that would appear before the reset: increased volcanic activity, unusual animal behavior, auroras appearing at lower latitudes, mass bird and fish die-offs. She also mentioned something else that got scrubbed from every recording within weeks. She said the tablets described a magnetic anomaly that would precede the reset by exactly 23 years, a weakening of Earth's magnetic field that would accelerate as the celestial body approached. When was her interview? 2004. What's 2004 plus 23, 2027? Here's what makes that interesting. In 2014, scientists confirmed that Earth's magnetic field has been weakening at an accelerating rate. The European Space Agency's satellite data showed the field losing strength about 10 times faster than previously thought. By 2020, a massive anomaly had developed over the South Atlantic. Dr. Mitchell mentioned these specific details in her interview, a decade before the scientific data confirmed them. 2 weeks after that interview, her university department received a massive anonymous donation with one condition. Dr. Mitchell had to be removed from her position. She now works as a high school history teacher and refuses all interview requests. The podcast that aired her interview deleted their entire archive in 2006. The host claimed server failure. So what happened to the tablets themselves? The original ones from the 1870s excavation are supposedly still in the British Museum's collection, but they're not on public display. The catalogue numbers exist, but when researchers request access, they're told the items are in restoration or on loan to other institutions. Nobody can seem to actually see them. The 2003 discovery, the sealed tablet with the date, was recatalogued as a forgery and placed in storage. The museum claims modern testing showed it was created in the 1920s, not ancient Mesopotamia, but the researchers insist they saw the original radiocarbon dating results showing the clay was over 4,000 years old. Those results have since disappeared from the museum's records. Now, you might be thinking this sounds like typical conspiracy theory material, ancient prophecy, suppressed evidence, mysterious deaths, and you'd be right to be skeptical. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. But here's the thing. We know for a fact that similar astronomical knowledge existed in the ancient world and was later lost or suppressed. The Antikythera mechanism, an ancient Greek analog computer that tracked planetary movements, wasn't supposed to exist according to our timeline of technological development. But it does. We know the Library of Alexandria was burned multiple times, destroying hundreds of thousands of texts we'll never recover. We know the Catholic Church suppressed scientific knowledge that contradicted official doctrine for centuries. So is it really that impossible that the Sumerians, a civilization that appeared seemingly out of nowhere with advanced mathematics, writing and astronomy, might have preserved knowledge from an even older culture? A culture that witnessed the last reset and recorded the pattern? And if that knowledge threatened modern power structures, if it suggested our civilization is on borrowed time, and another collapse is inevitable, would it be suppressed? Would the people who control historical narratives want you to believe we're living in an unbroken line of progress, rather than the latest iteration in an endless cycle? There's a reason the Tartaria theory resonates with so many people. Not because they're gullible or poorly educated, but because the official history has holes you could drive a truck through, entire civilizations that appear fully formed, technologies that shouldn't exist in their time period, megastructures built with precision we can barely match today. Look at the architecture attributed to the 1800s. Buildings with free energy systems built into their design. Massive structures erected in months when similar projects today take years. The Tartarian hypothesis suggests these weren't built in the 1800s. They were already there, surviving from the previous cycle. San Francisco, Chicago, Boston, Seattle all had massive fires within decades of each other. All emerged afterward with drastically different architectural styles. What if those fires weren't accidents? What if they were part of an organized effort to erase evidence of the previous civilization? The Sumerian tablets might be one piece of a much larger puzzle. A puzzle that suggests human civilization is much older than we're told, much more advanced in the past than we admit, and much more fragile than we want to believe. As for whether the 2046 date is real, we'll find out. The warning signs the tablets described, increased seismic activity, magnetic anomalies, unusual celestial phenomena, either they'll start appearing or they won't. Either the pattern holds or it doesn't. But consider what's already happening. Volcanic eruptions have increased dramatically over the past 2 decades. The magnetic pole is shifting faster than at any point in recorded history. In 2019, scientists had to issue an emergency update to the world magnetic model because the pole was moving too fast. Solar activity is becoming increasingly unpredictable. Earthquake swarms in unusual locations, mass animal die-offs that scientists struggle to explain. These are exactly the warning signs Dr. Mitchell mentioned in that scrubbed interview. Is it proof? No. Could it all be coincidence? Sure. But when you see the pattern, when you realize every warning sign from a 4,000-year-old tablet is showing up right on schedule, it becomes harder to dismiss. And the suppression continues. In 2019, a researcher at Cambridge published a paper analyzing ancient astronomical records. His work suggested ancient civilizations had access to observational data spanning thousands of years. The paper was retracted within weeks. No explanation given? But the fact that someone spent a century making sure you couldn't easily access this information, the fact that researchers who tried to share it faced career destruction and legal threats, the fact that the physical evidence keeps disappearing from supposedly secure archives, that should tell you something. Whether or not the reset is real, someone definitely doesn't want you asking questions about it, and that alone makes it worth investigating. So what do you think? Ancient knowledge suppressed by modern institutions, or just another fringe theory with no substance? Either way, the tablets existed, the translations existed, and now they don't. The story isn't over, it's just hidden, and if you know where to look, pieces of it are still out there waiting to be found before they disappear, too. If this opened your eyes to something you hadn't considered before, subscribe. The algorithm buries content like this, but you can beat it by hitting that button. Next week, I'm covering the Vatican's secret archive on pre-flood civilizations and why 1,500 years of documentation is still sealed from public view. And if you want to see how the Tartarian architecture connects to this reset cycle theory, that video is on screen now. It'll make you look at old buildings very differently,